Don't like that I don't know if I'm going to make it or not.
It was a 6-hour round trip.
That last bit was absolutely grueling.
Definitely the hardest thing we've ever done in our lives. It's just so hard. In case you missed part 1, here's a quick 30-second summary of our first 5 days. We picked up some gear in Kathmandu and then we flew into the world's most dangerous airport. We then spent 4 days trekking up from Lukla to Tengboche with one acclimatisation day in Namche Bazaar. Day 5 of our trek begins in the peaceful village of Tengboche, famous for the beautiful monastery situated right inside the village.
Come very now, neighbour. What's that all about?
Thankfully, the morning starts with some beautiful weather, the clear skies ensuring that all of the enormous mountains surrounding us are in full view as we hike further up the trail. With dozens of white stupas, prayer flags and views of snow-covered Amadablam, our surroundings are absolutely picture perfect.
Howdy there, friends. Where did we leave today? I should really think about this before I start filming. Tengboche. On our way to dong-botchay. Ding-botchay? There's so many botchays. So many botchays. Went past one earlier, didn't even know the place. Debotchay. There was another one that wasn't even on the map.
We're on our way to Pangboche now.
Yeah, Pangboche. Tomorrow we'll be at Longbotchay.
He's just saying that wrong.
Longbotchay? Lingbotchay? I'm not very good with all these names. Anyway, for the most part it has been nice so far. I mean, it's only been an hour. We've got about 5 to go. But, so far so good. Anywho, I have to go now. I have hiking to do. Also, excuse my hat. Sorry about my hat.
Yeah, sorry about the hat.
I'm a bit embarrassed about my hat. I've worn it sideways so that you can't see how wonky it is.
It's a genuine North Face, so I'm told. As we hike further over 4,000 metres, the trees begin to disappear and the forests give way to a more open and rocky trail, every corner giving way to even more impressive views of the world's tallest mountains. And I think we're about to leave the tree line. Ahead of us, there are just rocks. Feels like we're really getting the mountains now. It's just bushes. Very mountainous and rocky. Trees are disappearing.
Literally, oh god, it's just rocks now. Rocks and shrubs.
Yeah. We approached Tengboche in the late afternoon after around 6 hours of hiking, including numerous tea breaks at some of the tea houses along the trail. As we get closer to the town, we spot dozens of hairy yaks dotted throughout the surrounding hills.
So we see a lot of yaks and donkeys on the trail that aren't actually donkeys, they're mules. And there's over 1,600 mules on the trail. And you don't tend to see the mule trains after Namche because there's an unwritten rule between the people that they shouldn't come past Namche because they stink, because they pee and they smell. So yeah, that's why you don't see them, you only see the yaks. We thought it was because it was cold, that's why we only saw the yaks after Namche because we got higher up. But it's not, it's because the mules smell.
We also spot this adorable litter of 9 identical puppies hiding under a rock just outside the village. We also find this gentleman, who we affectionately named Jimbone. We choose Khumbu Resort as our tea house for the night, and as it's another acclimatisation day tomorrow, we'll be spending the next night here too. And, according to Danielle, this is also where we eat the best dal bhat of the trip so far.
We had the best dal bhat we've had so far in our whole time here, and we've had quite a lot of dal bhat, so I would recommend.
Then we head off to bed. Our 6th day of the trek is another acclimatisation day, to allow our bodies to get used to the high altitude. Our first of this kind was in Namche on day 3. An acclimatisation day is essential for avoiding altitude sickness, and it's a good chance to allow the muscles some much needed rest. Basically, when you get above 3,000 metres, you can't sleep more than 600 metres higher than you did the night before. So last night we slept at 3,800 metres, and tonight we're sleeping at 3,400 metres. So we have to keep another day of rest for acclimatising. We spend our day not really doing a lot. We explore the viewpoints surrounding Tengboche, we pet Jimbone, and we watch a movie at a small cafe in the village.
We're stuck here for our acclimatisation day. The French bakery just down there, you may be able to see it, they've wrote French bakery on the roof. Shows a movie at 2 PM. We don't know what the movie is, it might be in foreign. We're probably going to watch it. The altitude is starting to affect us. We think we're going to have to start taking that Diamox tomorrow or tonight. There's this niggling feeling in the back of my head, like it's a weird panic that it's out of your control whether you'll make it or not. Don't like that I don't know if I'm going to make it or not. Oh, and that's Jimbone. Bone. Jimbone.
We take the opportunity to drink plenty of water, refuel our bodies, and rest our aching muscles before continuing up towards Everest Base Camp the next day. The morning of day 7 is the first time of the whole trek where we begin to really feel the difficulty of it all.
We're only 2 days from the top now, but it's getting more and more difficult. I've had a headache all night long. Brenna didn't feel great. I think we're going to have to start taking dong-botchay tomorrow.
It was a little bit cold here last night. That's a flowing stream that's frozen over. And we begin to question whether or not we can actually make it all the way to Everest Base Camp. After packing up our bags and eating breakfast, we put on our backpacks and we begin the climb out of the valley and away from Tengboche, already out of breath from the small climb out of the valley. This part of the trail is definitely one of the most picturesque, with prayer flags, stupas, and mesmerising mountain views at every turn on the trail. Once again, we've been blessed with stunning weather and perfect visibility this morning, treating us to some truly spectacular sights. The goal of the day started as Dong-botchay, but as we begin walking, we soon realise just how tired we are. As we approach our lunch stop at Lukla, we decide that maybe it'd be better to spend the night here and just call it a day. Most people walk from Tengboche to Dong-botchay in one day. It takes about 6 hours, but yeah, it's about 700 metres in elevation. But yeah, we're going to break it up into 2 days. So that's exactly what we do. We listen to our bodies and we rest. We drink numerous cups of ginger tea between us and we refuel, completely amazed at how much of a toll this is taking on our bodies. At this point, I should probably mention that we're no strangers to physically difficult challenges. We've walked 1,000 miles on the Pacific Crest Trails a couple years ago, and we've just finished a 3-month bike ride across the USA, just a few weeks before flying into Lukla at the beginning of this trek. And maybe because of these experiences, we naively assumed that a 130-kilometre trek would be a breeze. And it's around here on day 8 that we realised that we were wrong to assume it would be easy. We began to question whether or not we would eventually make it the whole way. That night, we play cards with the other trekkers, we watch an amazing sunset, we admire the views, we watch yaks from our bedroom window, and we even find Jimbone again. We hoped that this relatively easy day would recharge us and give us the push that we needed for our final few days. Waking up in one of the most picturesque locations we've ever slept in, we are greeted with a freezing cold morning, with our water bottles from the evening before being totally frozen on the windowsill in our bedroom. And after breakfast, it's time to head uphill and towards our next destination, Dong-botchay. Dong-botchay will be our penultimate overnight stop on our way up the hill, with our final night being in Gorak Shep before heading back down the hill and towards the comfort of lower altitude. On our way towards Dong-botchay, we pass the Lukla Pass Everest Memorial, a monument built to remember those who have lost their lives in these mountains. We're almost 5,000 metres. It's just so hard. Moving is just so slow. My legs ache, my lungs ache, my brain aches. I've only got 1 day left. I imagine we'll make it. We started taking dong-botchay today. Hopefully that will help. It's just so difficult. From up here we can see the tiny village of Lukla where we started our day. After crossing the pass, we move further into the next valley, slowly creeping towards Dong-botchay. After a couple more hours of hiking, we eventually reach today's destination at a whopping 5,000 metres above sea level. No wonder we're struggling. Totally exhausted, we spend the evening mostly in our room resting before getting an early night for our final uphill day tomorrow.
It's cold, and we both feel sick. Brenna looks sad and there's a lady eating something outside our door.
Our early bedtime last night leaves us waking up with raised spirits on the morning of day 9. Either that or the fact that this is our last uphill day has given us a new burst of energy.
I'm sick of looking like this. I can't take this hat off. We're at the stage now where the hat stays. Go to dinner in the hat. Go to sleep in the hat. Wake up in the hat. It's a nightmare.
For the first time so far, our morning begins with a flat walk out of the village we spent the night in. This gives us a much needed warm-up for the day to come. It isn't too long before we find ourselves hiking next to the insanely impressive Khumbu Glacier, and we're completely surrounded by the tallest peaks in the world. Both the altitude and the views take our breath away, as we slow to a crawl and struggle for the last few kilometres to Gorak Shep, which will be our last stopping point on the trail to Everest Base Camp. After a few more hours of hiking, we finally make it to the highest tea house we will ever spend the night in, at Gorak Shep, where our room has perhaps the most impressive view we'll ever witness from our window.
That last bit was absolutely grueling. Hardest bit by far.
Yeah.
It was just loose stone.
After stopping for some lunch and some more ginger tea, we drop off all of our stuff and our bags in our room. Then we head out to complete the final stretch to Everest Base Camp and back before it gets dark. Despite the challenges that we faced on our trek up here, we are filled with an enormous sense of gratitude as we walk the last few miles towards Everest Base Camp. The terrain is rocky and challenging, but the views of the snowy peaks all around us are honestly the most beautiful thing we have ever seen. The difficulty of the 9 days leading up to this make the views even more rewarding and fill us with a sense of pride for getting here despite the challenges and not giving up. As we inch closer and closer to our end goal, we are filled with a great sense of relief that the physical challenge of hiking uphill at these altitudes is over. But also, we feel a sadness that our journey ends here, as we're going to be walking back down the exact route that we came up through once we begin descending tomorrow. Getting to see the world's tallest mountain in person is a privilege that we will never forget or take for granted. And knowing that we walked ourselves up to these views is something that we are very proud of. Unfortunately though, the extremely cold temperature drains the camera battery much quicker than expected, so we never did get any footage of us standing in the base camp. It's safe to say that at that point in time, we were very grateful to be heading downhill tomorrow. Our 10th day on the mountain marks the beginning of our descent. But before heading downhill, we decide to challenge ourselves one last time and attempt to hike up to the top of the small peak nearby called Kalapatar.
We're literally about to do our final ascent. We just have to go up one more time for a mile, and then it's nothing but down, down, down.
As we walk away from Gorak Shep and towards the trail, we are already struggling, finding even the flat walk to the base of the hill a challenge. The hike up to Kalapatar is just under a mile each way, with around 1,500 feet in elevation gain. However, what would normally be a moderate challenge becomes extremely difficult at these altitudes, and we really struggle to get up there.
It's too hard.
So today, we woke up this morning, the plan was to get to the top of Kalapatar, which is that brown lump behind me, somewhere over here. But yeah, that's not going to happen. I don't think Danielle feels very well. She's sitting on a rock back there somewhere, so I'm probably going to turn around now. I've probably made it maybe a third of the way, but the view is probably one of the most amazing views I've ever seen in my life. Look at that view. Literally like a 360 of amazing. Definitely the hardest thing we've ever done in our lives. So yeah, now we're going to start descending, which we're very excited about. We felt like crap for the last 3 days. We're excited to get down. Before we begin descending, I take a few moments to fully absorb these insanely amazing surroundings. The views of Mount Everest from here are breathtaking, and I spend a few minutes appreciating the beautiful weather that we've been blessed with, and the tough but rewarding 9 days that it took for us to get up here and witness the tallest peak on the planet from so close. Although we didn't make it to the top of Kalapatar, I feel proud that we made it this far, as we confidently turn around and begin our downhill trek back towards Lukla to catch our return flight to Kathmandu. Although the downhill is slow going because of the tough, uneven terrain, we still make remarkably quick progress compared to the uphill struggles of the previous few days. As we walk away from the mind-blowing views surrounding Gorak Shep, we retrace our steps through these incredible valleys below. Our last 2 days on the trek start with a reunion with Jimbo, the dog we first met 5 days ago in Tengboche. And the next 48 hours serve as a bittersweet reminder that sometimes going down is just as difficult as going up, especially when the distance covered is much greater. But despite our aching joints, we are relieved to be swiftly heading towards lower elevations, with each passing hour making it easier to breathe. As we leave the staggering views behind us, we revisit the astonishing culture dotted throughout these valleys and re-enter the tree line, eventually passing back through each of the towns that we stayed in on our way up the mountain. We are reminded of how we initially struggled to catch our breath when we first made it up here, each new town becoming the highest elevation we had ever been to. After spending our last night at Namche Bazaar, we finally descend into the culture-rich, lusciously green valley that will take us to Lukla, where we will fly to Kathmandu the next morning. Back in the valley now. Very green, very nice. Lots of civilization. I like it down here. Easier to breathe. We head through the tiny cobbled towns along the river, stopping for ginger tea and to enjoy the sunshine in the valley one last time. As we approach Lukla, we take in the final views through the valley and enjoy a beautiful sunset as we take our last steps on the Everest Base Camp trek.